All right. So there is another element, and I'm going to attempt to explain this without going too deep and getting off track. But when you invite in too much feedback, too much opinion, too much data, you've just completely covered yourself up with information about the decision you're trying to make. You enter into overwhelm. It's just too much. You're underwater. You don't know where to go next. When you do that, your brain actually works against you to help you gain the clarity and make the decision going forward. And it's because overwhelm is an emotion that emits a lot of fear. When people get overwhelmed, they get afraid. What's going to happen? How am I going to get out of this? And when that happens, the emotional side of your head overrides the critical thinking side of your head, because it goes into this thing called fight or flight. When you're really threatened, you either freeze or you attack. And a lot of people freeze. And so all cognitive thought, which leads to decision making, comes to a halt. So when I see people getting into that, what I recommend is you only need a certain amount of information to make an informed decision. You need to know what that is. What is it you need to know before you can make a decision that's probably going to render a better rather than worse decision, and cut off the amount of information coming at you? Because at some point it's redundant or it's irrelevant, but it's just like throwing wood chips on the pile. And so you really got to learn how to decide, okay, what do I need to know in order to be able to put me in a position where I can decide amongst options or decide to go forward. And I think people, they misconstrue that because they think, okay, if I still haven't been able to figure it out, I need more data. I need to talk to more people. I need to get more input. And that doesn't actually help. I mean, sure, you go to 2 or 3 people that are really schooled up in the area that you're trying to figure out, and you get that. But if you add 4, 5, 6, 7 people to the list, it's not going to do what you think it's going to do.
Right. Yeah. I mean, more is not always better.
No. Right. And in decision making, I think you're right about that.
Well, because I think a lot of times it goes back to what do we understand the need is? And to your comment that you made a moment ago, I like the idea that before we actually go into the decision-making process. So again, we're using that example from earlier about we need to go get a software tool. Maybe it's a new accounting tool. Okay. What's really important is that before you go into that and you start looking at your options, you go in with 2 to 3 main things you're looking to achieve, right? Keep it simple. I need the tool to be able to communicate with our ERP program. I need the tool to be able to take credit card payments. I need the tool, right? So
right.
As long as you go in knowing what your primary focus is and what you're trying to achieve and keeping that simple, I think you will have a much better chance of getting to the point of being comfortable making a decision rather than just going in kind of like eyes and ears wide open, head just kind of, I'm just going to listen and learn. It's
right.
like, well, okay, like I get it, but you also have to know what you're looking for to a degree. You can't just go into this thing like, I'm just really looking forward to being educated.
Right. Yeah, no, it's, and look, every day, if you're in an authoritative position within a company, or you're the owner of the company, you're probably making between 20 and 30 decisions a day, many without even knowing about it. It's just rote stuff. Somebody comes to you and says, so-and-so called, they want to have lunch with you, is Friday open? That's a decision. So it could be basic stuff like that, or it could be the more complicated stuff like a client, calling you up and saying, hey, we can't deal with this anymore. If you can't come in here Monday morning and straighten this thing out, then we're going to have to find another supplier, so you can get kind of almost hostile type situations that you have to decide over. But to me, decision-making at its roots is a behavior. It's a behavior style, pattern that if you can figure out what works for you in terms of what you need to know, who you need to involve, and what kind of timelines you're under, then I think over time, you will get better at it. It is one of these skills that you can improve in with practice.